My name is Zachary Kraus. I currently live in Harmony, Pennsylvania with my wife, Rebecca. I work as a financial analyst for PGW Auto Glass in Cranberry.
And as Zach said, my name is Rebecca. We are married. We got married in 2020 in the midst of COVID. I grew up in Gibsonia, so not too far from here. We met at Westminster College. Got married. I currently work for UPMC in Pittsburgh.
Hi, my name is John Hoffman. I'm a scheduler with Allegheny Center for Digestive Health. It's part of the Allegheny Health Network. We work with GI procedures and appointments.
Hi, my name is Tamiwa, and I'm originally from Nigeria. I moved to the U.S. at 16 for school, and I've been here ever since. I'm currently an engineer. I work in Cranberry, and I love engineering.
Hi, I'm Kevin Sager. I work at IBM for the last 25 years, and I am a software engineer.
And I'm Betty Sager. We live in Seven Fields. We have 4 daughters that are grown, and I spend my time watching grandchildren mostly. I watch my granddaughter 2 days a week, and we had 2 grandsons that were born earlier this year, so I've been going back and forth between Detroit and Mechanicsburg watching them.
My favorite hobby is probably training for triathlons, as intense as that sounds. I was a swimmer in college, so it was kind of a nice transition after college.
And my favorite hobby is running. I like to read a little bit as well.
Probably photography. It's been a big thing of mine. Jake Evans got me into it here a couple years ago for Upwards Basketball. They say it's the hardest photography to get into, sports photography.
My favorite hobbies just surround music, so I really enjoy music, whether it's singing, playing the guitar, playing instruments, things like that. I also enjoy writing a lot. So different forms of writing, stories, books, things like that. That's something I really enjoy. I also enjoy just being out in nature. So like taking a drive out in nature, or just, taking a walk, spending time and just soaking in the goodness of God through nature.
My favorite hobby is woodworking and doing home improvements. The home improvements are during summer, and I get a little bit of woodworking done during this winter.
And I do, I'm in a book club, so I enjoy reading, and I also do a little bit of sewing.
So I came to know Christ. I luckily grew up with parents that prioritized church and faith, so I was introduced at a young age to it, which got me plugged into youth group and Christian camps, which really helped solidify my faith at a young age. I feel fortunate I was able to kind of carry that through into my adult life, maturing kind of as I went, and have been very blessed, just to have that a part of my life.
I've had a similar walk. I grew up in the Methodist Church, was raised by 2 Christian parents and in a family with 2 Christian brothers as well. So I was very blessed. I was been raised in the church from a young age, and just throughout my life, just maturing and walking closer with Christ.
So I came to know Christ. I think I was about 7 years old. My parents were working with the Pittsburgh Chinese Church over in McCandless, Allison Park area. I've been coming to church all my life, and that just felt like the moment that I really understood that he was my savior.
I came to know Christ through my parents, I would say. So I grew up in a Christian home. My parents were very strong believers. They knew the Lord and were very intentional about enforcing that in their home. However, I like to say that, so I remember saying the prayer at about age 6 or so. But I always like to, talk about the fact that growing up in a Christian home and kind of having that background doesn't always mean that you're a Christian. because I realized that after I came to the US and just spent a little bit of time here, I had a season where my life didn't look or didn't match the values that I had been taught. And that just was a call for me to a deeper walk with God. And so it's just so interesting to see that there's the foundational part of it where you know Christ through the family you're born into and you're led to say that prayer. And there's now the deeper personal encounter with God, which I think is very important for everyone to actually say, like, I know God and I'm leaving for him.
I've always been a believer. I mean, I was raised in a church, and I was probably about 9 years old or so when I can distinctly remember asking Christ to be part of my life.
I always thought that there was a higher being as I looked at the things happening here on earth and how nature was working and how people work and how everything is the complexity of everything. Then when I was 23, I joined a Presbyterian church and was baptized at that point.
So how did we choose LifePointe? Zach grew up in the Alliance Church. So I'll be honest, I didn't know too much about the Alliance Church. So when we got married and were looking for churches, he had asked for us to keep that in mind. So as we were touring churches in the area, this was one of our stops, and we really fell in love with the preaching, and everyone was really kind, and we got plugged into the young adult group right away. So we've been here ever since.
So in about 7th grade, I started coming to LifePointe. We were going to a church down towards Pittsburgh, and there was a couple things that weren't correct, in my opinion and in my parents' opinion. So we started coming here to LifePointe, and ever since, that's just been my place. I had a falling out with, I guess, my faith back right before COVID hit, and I credit COVID to bringing me back because I was in a very dark place and I had to move back in with my parents, and they forced me to come to church, and that's been it.
Okay, so why I chose LifePointe Alliance, it's a funny story, but when I moved here, I was like praying about the church that the Lord would lead me to and all of that, and I had visited a lot of churches in the area, one Sunday to the other, and I would pass by 228 all the time, and I would see LifePointe Alliance, and I just felt like this church was way too big for me. Just previous experiences, I didn't want to be in a big church. And so after visiting all the churches and just feeling like none of them was like where God wanted me to be, and I was like, okay, I'm going to visit this one big church that I'm running away from. And I visited, and the word and everything was good. But I remember walking out and just feeling like, I wasn't too sure yet about it. And a wonderful couple just came up to me and started talking to me, introduced himself to me. And then from then on, it just became like this became the place that the Lord had for me. And through the people here, I've gotten to know a lot more about like the area. I've moved to Cranberry, Mars, and it's just been so wonderful ever since.
LifePointe matched up well with the values that we have. It's the other churches we were at tended to be a bit more liberal, and they were presenting values that we really didn't agree with, and in a more biblical-based faith.
And I would just like to add, I mean, this is clearly a church that loves Jesus and is very biblical-based. I mean, I've probably learned more about the Bible in the time I've been here than I did all the years prior to that.